press handstand, straddle, slider, elevated, progressions. If you're an adult gymnastic skill seeker working towards your first press to handstand, give this a try. The hardest part of the press to handstand is the bottom position, which requires significant strength and flexibility. While working on your strength and flexibility, you can still train the press to handstand by using an elevated surface. The higher the elevation, the easier the exercise will be. As strength and flexibility improve, you can gradually lower the elevation and move towards the floor. At a maximum, you want the elevation to be below hip height, as the goal is to press to a straddle handstand with your feet off the elevated surface before bringing the legs together into a straight handstand. Let me explain. Start by placing your feet on a slippery elevated surface. Here, I'm using a slider on top of a box. Wearing socks is another good option. Next, place your hands on the floor in front of the elevated surface. You will need to experiment with how far away you place your hands from the elevation, as it will change depending on the height of the elevation. It's best to video yourself from a side view to ensure your hips are vertically stacked above the middle of your hands when you move into the pike handstand shape. Keep the legs straight, the feet together, and the toes pointed as you use your hip flexors to pike the hips up and forward to slide your feet towards your hands. Think about sucking your belly button in towards your spine. You want your upper back to be rounded. Keep your elbows locked and actively push into the floor by elevating your shoulders. This is where your strength and flexibility are going to be tested. If you're strong but not flexible, you'll lean your shoulders forward slightly to counterbalance your lack of pike flexibility. This is fine, but it will require more strength to perform the press to handstand. Do your best to keep the shoulder angle open and your shoulders elevated as much as possible. The more flexible you are, the more you'll be able to close the angle between your thighs and your torso. You'll also be able to keep your shoulder angle open, making the press a lot easier. Keep your legs and arms straight as you close the angle between your torso and thighs. The lower the elevation, the more you will need to close this angle. Once you reach this point, lift your feet off the elevated surface and press into a straddle handstand. It's best not to rush past the straddle shape and into the straight handstand, because there's a certain order of steps that needs to happen to increase your chances of success. As you lift the legs, focus on opening the shoulder angle and moving into a stable straddle handstand. It's best to pause here, find balance, and ensure the shoulders are open and the legs are straight. Once the straddle handstand is under control, keep the legs straight and draw a nice big circle with the feet to bring the legs together in a straight handstand. As you do this, the pelvis will move from an anterior pelvic tilt, our APT, to a posterior pelvic tilt, our PPT. Hold the straight handstand for a few seconds before opening the legs into a star handstand and then tilting the pelvis back to APT to lower down to the straddle handstand. Again, fight to keep the shoulder angle open as you sit the hips back and move to the straddle handstand. From here, try to close the angle between your thighs and your torso as you bring the legs back below the parallel point. Use your hip flexors to pull your legs towards the elevated surface or all the way down to the floor. Give it a try and see how you go. If you've got questions, please leave them in the comments. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.